joint effort for the 9th Judicial Drug Task Force and the Lenoir City Police Department and the District Attorney General's Office. I'm Russell Johnson, the District Attorney General. This is Chief Don White from Lenoir City Police Department to my left. Kristen Kelly, our drug prosecutor, in my office to my right. We also have Sheriff Tim Guider, the Loudoun County Sheriff here, and B.R. Ladd, the Drug Task Force Director. The two main individuals with the DTF and the Lenoir City Police Department that have been involved in this operation are Sergeant Lynette Ladd with Lenoir City and Brendan DeBoer, the Deputy Task Force Director. What we're going to do here in a little bit, we're going to go out to a location in Lenoir City at 527 West 2nd Avenue. It is a residence that has been involved with a number of calls for criminal activity, specifically drug activity, over the last 2 years. There have been at least 3 non-fatal overdoses at this residence, 2 of them in which EMS or law enforcement had to administer Narcan to save the lives of the individuals who were overdosing. There is 1 individual that was a frequent customer and participant at the drug house that did result in a fatal overdose at a different location on 2nd Avenue back in October of last year. There have been a couple of stabbings that are under investigation, and even activities as far as prostitution are concerned. Numerous individuals being involved using this house, a number of charges and cases that have been prosecuted in criminal court. Lenoir City has already taken action in this case to sort of temporarily shut down the house as far as a residence. They've intervened and posted the house. The owner is allowed to go in and out of the house still during the day for purposes of remodeling, cleaning up, reconstructing, whatnot. There's no evidence that any of that activity is going on. Instead, the activity that continues to occur is the same criminal and drug activity that we're after to stop with this action to abate a nuisance and board up and close this drug house. One comment I would like to make, I think this case is emblematic of the whole opioid crisis across our region of East Tennessee and the Appalachian region. I've known the owner of this house since he was a teenager. He was a very bright individual back in the late 80s and 90s when I knew him. He had talent sort of in the IT type area as we would describe it today at that time, and did well. The problem was he had a condition, a medical condition, a degenerative condition with his back that led him to be prescribed what was marketed as non-addictive opioid painkillers. Many individual companies marketed different kinds of opioids throughout the years, and we know well about the criminal prosecutions dealing with at least one company, the maker of OxyContin, that resulted in criminal convictions for executives because they were deliberately marketing a product, OxyContin, that they knew to be highly addictive as non-addictive. And I would point out that that is one of the major reasons that I have joined with 14 other district attorneys across the state of Tennessee to sue a number of the opioid manufacturers under the Tennessee Drug Dealer Liability Act. And unfortunately, the owner of this house got addicted to opioids through a legitimate purpose, just like many people, to treat a medical condition and to treat actual real pain. And it resulted in a further worsening, deepening addiction. When he could no longer get prescription medication, he turned to street drugs or illegal drugs, like a number of other individuals do. And I would suggest to you, and talk to the sheriff, talk to the chief, that if you went and interviewed a number of these people who are talked about in this petition in the several enumerated paragraphs of criminal activity and calls to the residents, if you talk to them, how they got in this condition, how they got addicted to heroin, how they got addicted to methamphetamine, how they moved on from marijuana to opioid medication, or started with pills, opioid pills, and it led them to meth and heroin laced with fentanyl. It would relate back to this opioid crisis that we're trying to combat here in Tennessee. And this individual, this owner, is part of it. As typical in many of these cases, he has a child who has been raised by his mother. He's in his young teens, I think. His mother's a hard-working individual, a good lady, a good person, and she's in the same situation that so many grandparents and parents are today, raising children and grandchildren because of the opioid crisis. So we take no satisfaction in what we're about to do today. We don't take it lightly to take this action. It's sad, but it's necessary. Many of the neighbors on this area, 2nd Avenue, probably wish that this would have happened sooner. It's difficult to document these cases. You have to wait until you have enough cases, enough evidence to go forward with the court before you ask a judge to issue a permanent injunction on a house and take someone's property, or ultimately have the opportunity to take their property. I would note that the media was here about 2 years ago when General Kelly and I, along with the sheriff and the chief and others in law enforcement, took this action on a house out in Harrison Hills subdivision, which is not located too far from here, just behind Lenoir City High School. In that case, the mother of the individual using the house as a drug house owned another house and lived in another house in Harrison Hills. Despite repeated attempts by law enforcement and drug investigators to go to her and say, this is what your son is doing in this house, this is what is taking place. Here is the traffic count, the number of people coming in and out of this house buying drugs, using drugs. She wouldn't do anything about it. It took us taking this action like we're about to take today to get her attention. That one was a success. She ultimately kicked her son out of the house with our help by putting him in jail, and had to pay tens of thousands of dollars to have the situation at the house remediated. There was meth use in the house, so it had to be cleaned up from an environmental standpoint. She got that taken care of and was able to sell the house, and now there's a legitimate property owner and resident in that house, and things are back to normal in Harrison Hills thanks to law enforcement and the action we took that day. We're hopeful that this will happen in this case too, that something good will come out of it. This house will be shut down by the court. The owner will get his attention, and hopefully something good will come out of the situation. It's a desperate situation for many people, many families. This is what we deal with every day in court, and this is an extreme but very necessary measure that we're taking to try to end the crisis, at least at this residence at 527 West 2nd Avenue in Lenoir City. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief White for comments, and then back to General Kelly.
Thanks, General. I would just say this house, as well as several others, have become a serious problem for our community, and we're going to take aggressive steps, just like today, to try to stop this activity. We work very closely with the District Attorney's Office and the DTF, as well as the Sheriff's Department. Our investigators are going to continue to pursue these drug traffickers and try to get them out of our great city. So I just commend the District Attorney's Office for helping us with this process, and we will move on through the year with the same approach.
General Kelly, you want to talk about the court process and what will be the next several steps after we board the house up?
The owner of the house will receive notice that, in fact, this house is being declared a nuisance and a temporary injunction will be placed down. This person will be back in the court on June the 1st in front of Judge Wicks in downtown Loudoun County, and we will talk about some of the things the state wants that person to do before the house would be returned, if at all, to them.
Any questions from the media?
So far, are there any arrests related to what's happened today so far? Do we know if there's been any arrests made?
There are not any arrests prepared as far as having warrants for certain individuals. What we're going to do, law enforcement's going to go out there ahead of us, see who's there. They've been monitoring the activity going on at the house, and there may be some individuals that, if they have outstanding warrants or if they see ongoing drug activity, that will result in arrest. There are a number of controlled buys that have taken place involving this residence and this owner and other individuals. So as you all know, in our 4-county district, we go to grand jury in 1 county each month. Our next opportunity to be before the grand jury in Loudoun County would be in August, so there is the very real possibility that you'll see some indictments coming out of that grand jury based on activity in this house.
And bottom line, I know that there's a lot of houses around this house, probably some kids live in the area, sort of a busy area traffic-wise. Just how much safer is this area now that this house has this notice on the door?
Okay. Once we get there, hopefully it'll be much safer. Chief, you want to address that?
Well, already much safer. After we shut the house down for occupancy, they were only allowed to go in there and do work to try to get the house back in shape with utilities and the plumbing and for it to be occupied. So just that slowed the traffic down significantly, because it was a constant problem daily. We would receive, calls from the neighbors as well as just workers that were in the neighborhood, delivery drivers, because this definitely was a nuisance property just with all the illegal activity that's going on. So it's already slowed. This will, when that house is boarded up this afternoon, that will end it.
Do we know over the course of a few months or years or however long it was, what kind of drugs were ever recovered there? Was it meth, was it pills, or what was really going on?
And I don't have the particulars, but I do know that there were different illegal narcotics seized out of the property over the course of the last 16 to 24 months from illegal prescription medication as well as street level drugs.
I think heroin and meth, like I said, there was a lot of intravenous user activity there. Usually that's meth and heroin. Heroin laced with fentanyl has been a big problem. In fact, fentanyl was the result of the fatal overdose of the individual who wasn't in this house per se when he died. He was there at another house on 2nd Avenue, but it's pretty clear that he was getting his drugs through that house, maybe not necessarily from the owner, but other people in and out of that house.
All right, thank you.
And so we understand there's been, some other illegal activities besides just drug use. What kinds of, activities have we seen at this house?
Prostitution, aggravated assaults involving stabbings. I know at least 2 stabbings, correct?
Yes.
Lynette Ladd.
Were those fatal?
Other activity. I'm looking over at Sergeant Lynette Ladd from Moore City PD and Brenda DeBoer with the DTF. Anything, if y'all want to come forward or someone wants to add to it?
We responded to domestic violence calls. We've served warrants on people that were in the home that was wanted. We've also drug paraphernalia.
Lynette, come on up so they can see and hear you. Just repeat that so you're, just tell your name.
I'm Sergeant Lynette Ladd with Liberty City Police Department. We've arrested people there that had warrants, charged people with possession of drug paraphernalia, the aggravated assault, also the domestic violence calls.
How long have you been monitoring the activity at the house?
Many months, probably into years now.
Yeah, probably close to 2 years.
Yeah, thank you.
Complaints have been coming in for up to 2 years.
Right, all those, a lot of the specific calls and instances have been outlined in the petition that we gave you. Several pages and paragraphs enumerated there of the activity, and I think as you'll see, it goes back quite a bit of time. Like I say, to get enough activity and get it in before the court on paper in a petition, takes a while to feel like you have enough serious activity to convince the court that yes, you need to take this extreme measure, this extraordinary step.
Over the past 16, 24 months, whatever it is, looking at the house, was there any instance where DCS got involved? Were there any children that kind of got caught up in the mix in any of these calls or following up on anything?
I'm not aware of any, are you?
I am familiar, I'm not sure how much I can elaborate on that, but I am familiar with one child that was removed from the residence.
Okay. Do you happen to know roughly age? We're talking like teenager or toddler or?
I think early teens, if I'm correct.
I'm sorry?
Early teens, if I'm correct.
Okay. Did you know if it was that teen taken into custody of the state or?
That's a juvenile matter, and I'm not really allowed to
Okay.
elaborate on that.
Sure.
Nothing else?